Hello, everyone. Coming up on FTC Top 25, the results for the February FTC Top 25 are comprised of your votes from the community. We have teams from 3 countries on this list and multiple US states. Get ready for the February POWERPLAY FTC Top 25.
This video on First Updates Now is made possible by viewers like you and also the following sponsors. At Kettering University, over 30% of the student population was in high school robotics. These same students have received a portion of over $7 million in scholarships. Scholarship applications for FIRST students are now available. Get more information at kettering.edu/first. Check out our all-new FTC content coming to Fun's YouTube in February, including new hosts from the FTC community. We'll have resource guides, top 10 moments, behind the bots interviews, and walkthroughs to help your FTC team improve at youtube.com/firstupdatesnow.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to FTC Top 25, where we reveal the top 25 teams you voted for. From First Updates Now, I'm Abbas, and joining me today are Tyler, Sahil, and Caden. We're excited to have you all back for the Power Play season, and for so many of you to participate in voting for the FTC Top 25. Every month, it seems like we're getting record voter turnout, and I'm just so happy about that. Make sure next month you keep an eye out for when voting opens to cast your votes, and we also have some awesome giveaways from Axon Robotics for one random team and one random viewer. And the random team will be that who makes the FTC Top 25. So stay tuned to hear how to enter and win. Let's get right in. Caden, who are we starting off with at the number 25 spot?
Coming in at the 25th spot, we have team 9956 NAC from Heartland, Wisconsin. With an OPR of 149, the NAC was first pick on the Finals Alliance and Inspire Award winners at the Wisconsin Lakeshore Qualifier. Now, we've seen some of the top teams this season go with a side outtake design. One of the most notable is Brainstem, and it seems to work very well for this team. However, they did just post a teaser of a new claw that grabs on the side of the cone instead of the top of the cone. So we might see a partial rebuild.
Yeah, definitely a very interesting team, and I think you draw a great comparison to Brainstem, and we know how successful they are. They did absolutely fantastic at Chesapeake Champs this past weekend, and I'm sure NAC, with just a little bit of driver practice and tuning, could be to a very similar caliber if they're not already there, looking at their OPR.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how the side grabbing for the cone will work because you don't see that often with teams.
For sure. Sahil, you want to go on to the 24th team?
Yes. In the 24th spot is a team that might have the simplest design out there, but they're a force to reckon with. Team 19708 is one of the that mastered the linear slide with the claw. The team has fully optimized their robot, trimming every single second that may have gone to waste. In fact, they have achieved the former world record back in December, and they still continue to improve.
Yeah, and Emerald Bots is one of those teams that we did a behind the bot with a couple of weeks ago, and I'm pretty sure it's posted. And so, they're definitely a very fantastic team. Lots to learn from them, especially about their drivetrain. It's just like so compact. And I think they also had some clever software features going on to automatically pick up the cone in autonomous and teleop. So definitely a lot to learn from this team. Caden, as someone who has like a more of a larger bot, like it's definitely not in that 18 by 18 footprint, but it definitely does leave like it makes its mark on the field. What do you think about like a robot that's this small?
So at least with our robot, when you're turning around between the junctions, you have the diagonal of the robot, which is much larger than say like our robot's 14 by 14, but it's much larger in the diagonal when we're turning. So having a small robot that diagonally can still fit in between the poles with cones on them definitely helps when navigating the field.
Sure. Yeah. And, unfortunately, they didn't qualify for the World Championship. The Washington State Championship was just such a tough competition to come out of. But, maybe we'll see them at MTI, CRI, any other off-season competition. And I'm sure next year they'll be a force to reckon with as well. And so, speaking of small robots, let's go on to our 23rd slot. Here we have a team that we've seen a couple of times this season. That's Team 9527 Rogue Resistance from Texas. And since going through a rebuild, they have an extremely compact, really heavy, but still lightning fast robot. I think one of the highlights of this team has to be their countersprung cascade lift. It is just so fast. And since this video, this match that we have on the screen, they've actually made it even better. Just reducing the current draw when they're not using it or when they are using it even, and it's just so fast. And I think counterspringing lifts is becoming an increasingly popular technique in FTC. And so I think Rogue Resistance is a great team to look at for how to do it. And we will be doing a behind the bot with them very, very soon. So I'm really excited to get that out. And, we'll definitely talk a lot about their counterspringing techniques. And I'm sure people will have a lot to learn from it. And so, as far as competitions go, they were recently the winning alliance captain at their Central Texas semi-regional with a non-penalty high score of 265 points. So that's right around those top 15, top 20 scores in the world. And I'm really, really excited to see what they'll do at their Centex regional because I know there's a ton of heavy hitting teams that are going to be there.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the counter spring video for the behind the bots because even maybe like I'll learn some stuff that I didn't really use when I was back in FTC.
Yeah, for sure.
In the 22nd spot is Team 11970 Titanium Talons. This team has an overall great performance this season, ranking 8th at Washington State and ranking 1st at Washington Tech Invitationals. It's sad to see that they won't be able to see them at Worlds, but perhaps we'll see them at MTI this year.
Yeah, Talons just has a fantastic bot. I remember watching their videos like early in the season. They were just putting all 20 cones on that high junction within like the first month or two. And definitely was a very scary robot to see perform early in the season. And, they definitely kept that going later. And I think they tried different strategies of like more circuiting around the field and, not just staying in one place. And definitely that slides rebuild to switch and have a lot shallower of an angle instead of the steep angle where they used to have with their first robot. Caden, what do you think of this design?
Yeah, I think having those really long linear slides definitely helps them in their teleop period, just to have shorter travel length on their chassis between the substation and whatever junction they're scoring on.
Yeah, and we saw them at MTI last year, so as Sahil said, hopefully we'll see them again this season. I'm sure they'll be coming out arm swinging, really ready to show what their robot can do. Um, but in the meantime, let's step away from Washington for a little bit and go over to California. So in 21st, we have Team 16236 Juice from California. They have got to have one of the cleanest robots I've seen this season with the hex pocketing, black color scheme, just simplicity overall in the design. They just have a 2 degree of freedom claw that has a pivot and a wrist, and it's just all attached to a very smooth linear slide with a belt drive system. And they've been able to hold their own in competition. They were part of the finalist alliance and the Inspire Award winner at their qualifier in late January. And with NorCal, they don't have another competition for about another month, with their NorCal regionals being around like mid to late March, if I remember correctly. So they are definitely going to be a force to reckon with there. And
Yeah.
really excited to see what they bring.
Yeah, I love seeing that arm design where it like flips around as it's putting the cone on. I remember seeing like early back in the beginning of the season with the robot 3 days, and at that time people were like, "Oh, this design is not going to be that successful." But we can see teams using it, and there's even more teams further in the top 25 that have this kind of design.
Yeah, I feel like the biggest worry with the arm is just like tipping. And so like you can see that juice robot just like almost ever so slightly rocks back and forth. It's definitely not something that gives them a lot of grief in autonomous. I mean, you can see they're able to localize perfectly well and pick up all 5 cones off that starter stack. But for other teams who may not have as much experience, or design intuition, they may design like really long claws that are pretty heavy and then just tip right over during matches, which can definitely be very, very unfortunate.
Yeah, definitely.
Kaden, you want to start off our top 20?
In the 20th spot, we have the third team on the list tonight from Washington. It's 17595 Beta Bionics. With an OPR of 139, this team won the Control Award and was first pick on the winning alliance at the Washington State Championship. With Washington having only 2 advancement slots to Worlds, this team just barely missed advancing. Nevertheless, this team has had a great season and has a really consistent robot.
Yeah, I think you really captured a very important point about Beta Bionics and that they're consistent. Like you definitely have to be consistent to be part of any eliminations alliance, let alone the winning alliance at a state like Washington. And I'm really, really excited to see, what they come up with next season and if their release any videos or any projects that they're working on during the off season as well.
Yeah, we saw this team set a previous world record with emerald bots, which
Emerald
is actually
bots, yeah,
in that video. And that was quite a while ago. So since then, they've still been very consistent and just keeping like a really, really clean robot.
definitely. Sahil, you want to go on to the 19th
Okay.
slot?
Yeah, so in the 19th slot, we have team 12887. This team has an awesome orange and black design that makes it not only very appealing, but it can perform really well. They're also known as the Devote Phobos, and they took the winning alliance at New Mexico State Championship and placed second in the league. It is safe to say that they will be a powerhouse at Worlds. What is your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, two things. First, just seeing them compete in person, definitely an amazing team and fantastic robot as well. Watching them in teleop, I mean, they just don't make mistakes. Like they place every single code, making sure that all of their cycles are as fast as possible while still making sure that they're getting every single point for those cones. And we just released a fantastic behind the bot with them as well. Really talked a lot about their turret, lift, different arm intake designs that they had. Just overall A+ team. Really glad that they're going to Worlds, and I'm excited to see what they bring there.
Yeah, this team definitely has an interesting intake. A lot of teams this year are going for claw designs, and they've gone for like spinning compliant wheel intake. And it's definitely worked very well for them, given that they're advancing to Worlds.
Yes. So let's talk about another international team. In 18th place, we have a very well-known team from last season. We've been hinting at them all the time this season, but they just haven't had a chance to compete yet. But that's changed now. And so Team 17713 Delta Force from Romania has come out guns blazing this season with a turret crane robot similar to Data Force from Skystone. They've already posted videos of a 1+5 in 17 seconds and are mid-competition, or they just wrapped their competition up right now. And I know they've seemed to have like some issues, but I'm sure a team as experienced as them, the Freight Frenzy World Champions, they'll be able to pull it together for the rest of the competition. They did advance to the Romanian National Championship, so really looking forward to see how they do there. And I mean, the potential with this robot is just crazy. Like we saw them running a couple different autonomous programs throughout the day. They started out with that autonomous that placed on the high junction nearest the human player substation, and I guess they were having some reliability issues or like accuracy issues. But since then, they changed over to their close high junction autonomous, and that was getting a lot more cones on the junction for them. So, Caden, what do you think? Like, how do you think they'll do at Romania National Championships?
I feel like they'd definitely be a contender. I feel hardware wise, the robot's definitely there. The main improvement they need is just optimization and programming. Definitely with that auto to make it more consistent. But yeah, we could see them be very, very competitive at Romania National Championship.
Yeah, and let's stop and talk about Romania for a little bit because wow, just 122 qualification matches of pure fun. Like those robots were so well built and so competitive. And so we did see a bunch of different designs. You had Team 19044 Peppers with the more like simple pass-through design that was very well optimized. And then you had Team Row 2D2 and they had like their double extendo with the passive deposit design. But you didn't really see too many turret crane robots except Delta Force. So do you think we will see more turret crane robots at Romania National Championships as teams have time to prepare and like develop their robots? Or do you think we'll see more teams like tend towards a design like Row 2D2 or Peppers, or just something that's a little less like crazy and out there and difficult to implement?
I think they'll probably go for something a little less complex and probably just go for better driver practice and making sure that they're consistent on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just ask, by the way, is that like the head FTC referee that's at the Romanian champion or Romanian event there? Isn't that Carol? Is her name?
I have no clue. I'd be very surprised.
It totally looks
if
like
it
her,
was.
so I don't know. It's just
Okay.
something that jumped out to me.
Yeah, I don't know. That if anybody does know though, please let us know in the chat. That would be very interesting. Yeah. So Sahil, you wanna, or actually Caden, why don't we talk about the next team? Very near and dear to your
Okay.
heart.
Next on the list is a team I've never heard before. It's 14725 Java the Huts. For those of you watching who don't already know, this is my team. With an OPR of 127, this team won the Inspire Award and were the winning alliance captains at the Florida Gulf Coast League tournament. And as lead of the mechanical design team of Java the Huts, I can say this is one of the most unique bots I've ever built. We use counter springing on both our virtual 4-bar intake arm and cascading elevator to get very fast motion. This has allowed us to get a fairly seamless transfer between our intake and outtake. But with the Florida State Championship coming up in a little less than 3 weeks, we're making some needed changes on the spot to ensure our consistency on the field.
Yeah, Caden. And so one question I have for you guys is, did you have the counter springing set up like the whole season? Like, was it something you had implemented from day one, or was it just something you knew you wanted to do?
So the entire design kind of revolved around doing counter springing, but we wanted to do it incrementally. So
Mhm.
we initially on in the season we didn't have it, but it was definitely like in the back of our minds, like this is something that we have to implement in our robot to make it perform to its full potential. And as you can see in this video, our like we added counter springing before our league championships, and during league championships, it performed very, very well.
Mhm.
We still are having some issues with our intake arm going to the right height. Right now, we're still running off encoders or motor encoders for our arm angle. Um, so we're switching to just using a rev encoder and distance sensors to get that more consistent. But yeah.
Sure. And so,
Y-
having like gone through the process of counter springing both linear extension as well as an arm, would you recommend it to other teams like to explore, or do you think the time could have been better spent doing driver practice or designing a different mechanism or anything else?
As far as like counter springing an elevator, um, it's not really too necessary. It doesn't make it that much faster. It only like makes the cycle time similar. So like your extension time is the same as your retraction time. And that kind of helps with cycles. But I would say for sure on long arms, like our long intake arm, counter springing helps a lot and it's definitely needed. It easily cut the time that our arm moves from intake position to transfer position in half, and it allows us to be a little more accurate in the position that we have the intake at.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
yeah. At the beginning of the clip, like I saw the intake mechanism, and it just like it took only 2 seconds to extend like a full tile and a half, and I thought that was pretty insane because usually it's like always very slow if you don't have that kind of setup in your mechanism.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So coming up in the 16th spot is Team 3658. They had not only showed up once or twice, but 3 times in the top 25. It is clear that Team 3658, the Bostons, are a great performing team, but also a favorite for the top 25. The design has stayed consistent for them throughout the season, but the robot seems to be getting more and more optimized. With its swinging arm and linear slides, it's an amazing robot to watch and match.
Yeah, the Boson's definitely a very fantastic team. I think their driving is just so smooth and as a result so quick. Definitely very interested to see like what they bring to the Missouri Kansas championships. Always a strong contender. And they're another one of those teams with that has like the really long arm, but they just don't tip, which is very very reassuring, I'm sure, to their drivers. Um, because I just can't imagine like how it would be like constantly having to limit your drive speed or just be like super conscious about how you're driving to make sure you don't tip. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
one of my favorite parts about this robot is that pole guide that they use during the teleop. It helps a lot for lining up on those poles. And I think it's something that a lot of teams are gonna begin to implement on their robots. I know it's something that our team wants to do for sure.
okay. So little Java the Huts leak
Yeah.
live on February top 25. Okay. Well, let's get into what I'm going to call one of the craziest bots of the night. Even after seeing this robot in person, it just seems a bit larger than life. Team 7172 Technical Difficulties is taking the 15th spot in our February top 25, and they just have an absolutely incredible robot. I know we've been saying this the whole season, like, oh, once TD's robot is tuned, it's going to be so crazy. And even though it's definitely not like all the way up to like that max technical difficulty standard, and it's like not at the peak scoring efficiency like they had last season, I think we can definitely say that this robot is incredible. Like watching teams live try to own junctions against them in teleop, it's just hopeless. Like, it seems like as soon as you place a cone, there's just another cone of the opposing color right on top of it. And it's just like, I don't know, it's just so difficult to play against. I will say though, one thing is it can sometimes seem like it is difficult to play with them as well. Like because they have just both arms there ready to intake a cone at pretty much all times. They're like they have one cone, they have one arm there at any time ready to intake. But I think like top level teams will definitely be able to work with them around that. And knowing a team such as TD that just has so much game strategy experience, driving experience, I'm sure they have something up their sleeves to make sure they can work with other top level teams really well in eliminations and qualification matches.
Abbas,
And
how is this robot controlled?
so I believe each driver controls each like half of the robot, like the left side and the right side. So, and it's definitely a ton and ton of automation, like they're not just sending, 50% power to a motor for however long they press the button for. Definitely a lot of inverse kinematics or positioning methods and algorithms that they have. But yes, very, very interesting.
This is seriously, man, like one of the craziest robots. Like this thing looks like it's out of a sci-fi movie. I wish I could see more of it instead of the giant yellow bandana that's blocking the camera. But I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
like this robot is freaking nuts, man.
Yeah, and they'll be competing this weekend at Colorado State's, and this is one of those competitions where you got to go big or go home. It's one of their tickets to Worlds, so I'm sure they are very very intent on making sure they're performing as well as they can um, this weekend. So, Caden, if you were playing against them this season, what would you think?
Definitely be hard for Junction ownership. Yeah, I don't really know what to think about that. Uh, yeah, but
Yeah,
I
it's
think
just like it's just like towering the full field, and it's just
It's
like
just
you have
crazy.
nowhere to move. And I
Yeah,
feel like if you're like anywhere underneath it, you probably couldn't extend your arm without getting in its way. So just like really obtaining the whole field to its play. I honestly
yeah.
thought it was like just two robots side by side, but when I was like, oh, when the person moved out of the way, it's like, oh, it's on one robot.
Yeah, no, it is. It is
it's crazy that
insane.
the chassis like extends outwards so they get more reach around the junction or
Yep.
around
Yeah.
that high junction.
Yeah. And for them, like doing the 1+10 is, I don't know. It's just gonna be there. I think it's safe to say there's no robot like theirs out there this season. Definitely,
Yeah,
definitely one of a kind, and
definitely gonna
very
pull it off again
impressive.
like last year.
Yeah, very, very impressive what they've been able to come up with this season. But that's enough about TD. Let's see how they do this weekend. But in the meantime, let's go on with our top 25.
All right. Next on the list, we have 14259 Turbo V8 from California. With an OPR of 123, they were on the winning alliance at both the NorCal Piedmont and Santa Clara qualifying tournaments. 2 days ago, they released this teaser of the new robot or new rebuilt robot. Just from this teaser, it looks like they've added a latch to their mechanism, to the deposit mechanism, and counterspringing on their intake arm. And well, their first robot already worked really well, so it's going to be interesting to see what kind of changes they have made to improve their existing robot.
Yeah, I think one thing that's interesting about the region that they compete in is like because it's NorCal and it's such a large region, they definitely will have at least 3 slots. I'm hoping 4 or 5. And if you do hit that 4 slot region mark, then there's absolutely no reason at all that the first pick that any captain should decline the first place in qualifications request. If they deem that the first place team is very good because that means that both the winning lines captain and winning lines first selected will be going on. So I'm sure that's a huge relief to teams like Turbo V8 and all the other NorCal teams that we've seen on our T25 tonight and, just in the region in general. But yeah, Turbo V8, definitely very fantastic robot. Also did a behind the bot with them. Definitely learned a lot about like all the degrees of freedom that they had on their deposit. I remember one thing that I learned was that besides just like the normal extension and turret that they have, they also have pitch control, similar to how Wolfpack had last season in Freight Frenzy. So that was very interesting, and I just like hadn't noticed that before. So always something new you can learn with taking a deep dive with teams.
Yeah. On to the 13th spot is another team that has taken winning alliance captain. This team is Team 19476, the Disrupting Robocephalic Brainstem Robotics team. With their cone guiding mechanism they designed at the front of the base of the robot, they're able to quickly put cones onto the junction without having to worry about it falling off. I noticed that for many other teams, they have to take an extra second to line up with the poles so it doesn't move around. But this team just has to easily run into it and drop their cones onto the junctions, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, they definitely remind me a lot of Pepper's 19044 that we saw in Romania. And we saw how successful that team was, and I think South Stem or the Disruptingly Robocephalic Brainstem Robotics team will be equally impressive this weekend at Colorado States. So, it's going to be a very tough competition. You have Upper Creek, Quality Control, South Stem, technical difficulties, and definitely the Colorado teams themselves are no slouches. So it's going to be a really tough competition, but I think that Sem's consistency and just effortless driving in matches is really going to help them rank highly, and hopefully, I'm sure they would like to be winning Lions captain. So
Yeah, just from this video, you can see how smooth they are with driving around the field, and that's something that's going to play into winning their matches.
yeah, I'm not exactly sure. It's a little tough to tell from this video. The robot looks really wide but really skinny at the same time. Like they have no problem maneuvering through the junctions. So definitely interested to know what their drivetrain footprint is like because they are able to control it really, really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, in 12th place, we have Team 16458, the Techno Wizards from San Antonio, Texas. They competed last at their Central Texas League tournament in late January, taking home both the Inspire Award and winning Alliance captain with an OPR of 159 points, putting them at 6th in the world currently. I feel like this team isn't talked about too much, like on the Discord or forums or in public places, but they definitely should be. And I think one thing that really sets them apart from other teams is their transfer process. They've just got it like down to a T. And I think that's one of the things that is most difficult for teams this season, and definitely one of the reasons we've seen so many designs that just don't have the need for a transfer. But it's really cool how they're able to transfer the cone and make sure it's like already slanted at an angle, and then just keep that angle through the rest of the cycle, and then deposit, with that same tilt, like with that same pitch back of the cone. And so I'm really excited to see what they have planned for the future. I think just a little bit more driver practice and optimizations. Well, really just driver practice, and they'll be very versatile.
This is one of the more complex robots that we've seen,
Mhm.
and they've definitely optimized it very well. I mean, they have two turrets on their robot, so it's yeah, pretty cool to see that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think like another thing with them though is like definitely as you said a very complex robot, but seeing as they have like the sixth OPR, sixth highest OPR in the world, like you can't have such a high OPR unless you're absolutely 100% consistent like every single match. So definitely a testament to their hardware and software ability, because just one thing goes wrong one match and your OPR shot for the rest of the tournament. So really, really incredible stuff, and I'm really hoping we see them at Worlds.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we just had 16458 taking the 12th spot, and now we have Team 19458 taking the 11th spot, which is no other than Equilibrium.exe. This team was the first pick at the Chesapeake State Championship and went head to head with the other teams further down the list in the grand finals. These matches were neck and neck, especially with the fact that most of these teams competing in the finals had a multi-cone auto that racked up a ton of points. And in general, just like all of the teams competing in the finals are either further down in this list or just like really good for honorable mentions.
Yeah, I mean, I was there at Chesapeake, and I commentated the grand finals matches, and Equilibrium definitely really good driving skill, consistent, autonomous. I'm really excited to see what they bring to Worlds. Another team we did a fantastic behind the bot with. Really learned a lot about their intake, lift, just overall driving strategy, and I can't wait to see what they bring to Worlds. Now, Caden, one question I have for you is seeing this high level of gameplay at Chesapeake, do you think this is what Worlds is going to be like, or do you think there's going to be some evolution in driver strategy that we'll see from now until Houston, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think with driving strategy, you might see some teams stop scoring in the middle of the match. Um, and then kind of rushing towards the end to get as many junctions or own as many junctions as possible and get that circuit. I think at the end it will come down to whose robot is the fastest on the field and see how many junctions they can score on.
Yeah, and one thing that I want to bring up about driver strategy that I don't think has been talked about too much this season is the ground junctions. We saw like in eliminations, both the Scarlet Alliance with your Brainstormers and Newt and Blue Crew, they tended towards placing some cones on those ground junctions to secure that circuit. And then as well as Equilibrium.exe, their alliance with Brainstem, they also tried placing not tried, they successfully did place cones on the ground junction. And it's just so viable because it's 5 points per cone on the ground junction. 2 for just placing it there, 3 points for the ownership, and definitely contributes so much to the circuit with that center cone, right smack dab in the middle of the field.
Caden, I love your suggestion of the new meta for FTC games where nobody does anything for about 90 seconds. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we might start seeing it.
Yeah.
Okay, coming in at the 10th spot, we have team 14525, the Terrabats from San Jose, California. With an OPR of 161, this team won the Inspire Award and were the winning alliance captains at NorCal South Bay Metro League tournament. This team has a very fast intake/deposit mechanism that allows them to score cones in the high junction closest to the substation extremely fast. One interesting thing about this team is that they have a mode to automatically score on the high junction. You can see how the driver is not pressing any buttons on the controller as the robot is scoring. Do you guys think we'll start to see more teams use automation like this in their teleops?
I'm not sure. I definitely see like the value in it, but I also know that this is not like how you max out your score, right? Like if you want to max out your score, you have to own those junctions, you have to place on the various levels and get those circuits. So unless a team is able to automate all of that, I feel like they'll stick more to just driving around the field and using some button automations for just transfer or raising the deposit to the right height and things like that. But definitely is a very, very impressive feat that they've managed to accomplish. Sahil, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think a lot of teams use that early season for like the automation and like going to the right height, which is definitely really insane. But like you said, it's gonna score less than if you were to go like around the full field. So most teams are prepared for that, having like 3 buttons for different heights and those kind of setups. So that's what I think people are going for at least.
Yeah, and another thing with Terabats that we saw, we've seen them post like I think it was a 1+7, and that was just so crazy to see like a robot without any extension doing that. So very impressive. And honestly, I don't know how they'd squeeze out those couple extra seconds that they need for the 8th, 9th, and 10th, or 9th, 10th, and 11th cones. But I'm sure a team as impressive as them will find a way to do it. Yeah. So let's go on to our 9th spot. In 9th place is a team we saw compete just this past weekend. That's team 18438 Wolfpack Machina from Beverly, Massachusetts, and they have just been ripping through their cycles this season. Although I could talk on and on about their auto and driving smoothness, I think one thing that I really want to leave the audience with and make sure everybody realizes tonight is their endgame strategy. So we can see like right here in about 15 seconds, they'll start is what they do is Wolfpack picks up the beacon and the cone at the same time. But then when they go to score it, they score them independently. So, we'll see it on the field right here, just as we start our end game period. They'll go and pick up the beacon and cone together. And then we can see in the lower left corner of the field, they've scored them on 2 different junctions. And this is just so powerful for a couple of reasons. First, it's one less trip you have to do, right? And traversing the field is just the longest part of any cycle. And second, it gives you so much versatility, right? Like you can secure both of the junctions near the terminals as they've done here, making it a lot more difficult for the opposing lines to stop a circuit, or you can use one to contribute to that circuit and the other to take away ownership from the opposing alliance. And I just think this is pretty, really, really cool strategy. And we saw, I think Brainstem also does a similar strategy. And maybe 1 or 2 teams in Romania, but definitely not as popular as something like the Red Solo Cup was for the team shipping element last season. Like it's not something that's just implemented by 60-70% of teams out there yet, but it really should be.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's a great strategy that more teams are probably going to implement later in the season. Probably like coming Worlds, a lot of teams will start doing it. It's also interesting to see like Wolfpack is quite a large robot, and seeing them move very smoothly on the field is pretty cool.
Yeah, and you go ahead, Saha.
Yeah, so I thought it was like really like you said, how it could pick up the capping mechanism as well as a cone and then do them separately is really neat. And what I think would be even cooler, that so they could like obtain more of the possession, is like if they had um their capping mechanism just like stay at the top instead of go all the way to the bottom. So then they can like get a guaranteed, oh, it's only for us and no one else can take it.
Well, the once you place a beacon on a junction, it's claimed permanently. Like you can't remove claim or junction
Okay.
ownership from one
Mhm.
that's been claimed by a beacon. So it doesn't matter if it's placed like just at the top of the junction or if it slides all the way down. Um,
Mhm.
but if that was the rule, then yeah, that would definitely have been a good strategy. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. In the 8th spot, we have team 9889, Cruise Control from New Jersey. With an OPR of 141, this team has a high score of 271, which is a 4-way tie for the third highest score in the world. This team goes to show how important it is to be good at driving this season. With the field scattered with poles, robots, and tipped cones, it is crucial to make sure that the driver can quickly navigate around the field. They're very consistent in taking and out-taking cones, which just goes to show that they have quite a bit of driver practice.
Yeah, I mean, Cruise Control, another team we did a fantastic behind the ball with, and you guys will hear me saying this all night. But the truth is, these teams that are in the top 25, they really have something special to share with the community about their robots, and so that's why we love doing behind the bots with them. They just have that special sauce that makes them score those couple extra cycles, make those consistent autonomous programs, and all the things that make them score so high. But Cruise Control, I think what I'll remember most about them is how in their world record match, they righted a cone during the match just so they could squeeze out those last couple points and secure that world record for the time that they had it. And it was just really a testament to their driving, adaptability during the game, and overall just a fantastic team.
Yeah, with the limit on cones, like every cone matters this year. Like for field elements. So it's yeah, definitely interesting seeing them riding a cone. I know Wolfpack also does it, and they're pretty good at it.
Mhm.
But it's definitely a strategy that's like going to happen because I mean, in your matches, sometimes auto may not work consistently. And you drop a cone. But as far as teleop, you're gonna need to be able to pick up that cone and score it.
Yeah, and definitely a very different strategy to pick up fallen over codes between Cruise Control and Wolfpack. But Cruise Control's had some time to work on their robot. They haven't competed too recently, I think, and I feel like they do have like a league championship coming up, or New Jersey State's, I'm sure, isn't far off. All of the state championships are within like the next 4 or 5 weeks. So really excited to see what they come up with, and I really hope they're at Houston. Definitely deserve one of those slots to compete and have a chance to take home that winning alliance captain or winning alliance title.
Yeah, and maybe they could set a new world record.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
All right. In the 7th spot, we have another team that was in the Chesapeake Championship and competed in the finals with Team 19458. This is no other than the finalist captain, Team 8393, the giant diencephalic brainstem robotics. They had won first place for Innovate with their unique linear slide mechanism that drops it off from the sides, and it spins a full 180 degrees while doing so. Just like the other teams in the top 10, they're able to do a 1+5 cycle for autonomous, as you can see in this video.
Yeah, Brainstem's driving is just nuts. Like they are so fast around the field, and they're able to maneuver just like incredibly well. So really excited to see what they have cooking for Pennsylvania. Definitely, I'm sure they were devastated. A lot of people were that they didn't qualify for Houston through Chesapeake, but they do still have Pennsylvania, to go and give it a try. Definitely some powerhouse teams there though, with Out of the Box and Green Lemons and a bunch of other great teams. But just this maneuverability around the field is next level. Definitely one of the things that makes Brainstem such a hardworking and high scoring team each season.
Yeah, and I saw like a little bit of even like defensive play in just like this like finals matches because like there's a bunch of teams pushing around trying to see, oh, like can I get this junction before the other team can, and just like interesting to see that defensive play style come and play a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's go on to our sixth spot. So in sixth place is another one of the few teams so far that has qualified for the World Championship and currently holding the record for the most cones in the autonomous period scored on their own is Team 16379, the Kookie Bots from Sammamish, Washington. It was a long road, but they qualified for the World Championship after winning the Inspire Award at the New Mexico State Championship and setting the 7th, 8th, and 9th highest non-penalty scores in the world. Although with the Romania National Championship or Romania qualifier occurring these past couple of days, I'm sure those scores will be pushed down a little bit. And this is another one of those teams we released an absolutely amazing Behind the Bot with. Really recommend everyone goes and watches it after the show. But in short, if I would describe this robot in one word, it would just be speed. Like every single mechanism on the robot is so fast, sometimes a little too fast. They can perform inconsistently on occasion, but once they hit their stride and really get going, they can put up some crazy points. And so we can see in this match on the screen just how quickly they're able to finish that 1+5 autonomous, leaving 15 seconds to score the other 5 cones or, wait and have a delay so they don't bump into the other robot from the other lines or just do whatever they want to do in the autonomous period. But their tally up also definitely equally impressive. They tend to focus more on a circuit strategy or going for that junction ownership rather than just sitting there and stacking on the high junction. But Cade and Sahil, what do you guys think they'll be working on for Worlds?
I mean, their swerve is just crazy. And I know in the Behind the Bots they did with them, they did say that they're going to rebuild and there's a V3 of the swerve coming. So it's going to be interesting to see how that swerve performs.
Yeah, I won't say anything more than V3 of swerve, but they definitely have some stuff in the works.
Yeah.
Sahil, say?
Yeah, I definitely like how like at the beginning of the teleop, they're just like going to every single junction from like short all the way to the high very quickly, and it didn't take them that much hesitation to go swap between the three, and it just like full cycle back and forth. So I'm just wondering how much is going to change by that version 3.
Yeah, definitely. And Worlds is only like 7 or 8 weeks away, so not too much longer to wait. But there is one way we can find more out about their robot before Worlds. And so before we go into our top 5, I'd like to pause for a moment and mention one of the biggest nights coming up for Fun FTC in the community. Tyler, can you talk a little bit about Fun FTC Reveal Night?
Oh yeah, so Fun FTC Reveal Night, tentatively looking at, I think it was April 14th, right? Top of my head. So we're looking at doing on Friday, April 14th. So if you're not familiar with it, teams, you can submit a hype video as we get ready for the championship. You're not required to go to championship sport, but obviously we'd love to have as many teams as possible for that. We'll be asking you to submit, I think it's a 2-minute video, a lot more details to come as we go by, but we're very excited to have as many teams as possible participate in our hype night. We hope to see your team there, so look for more stuff coming out soon in regards to that as well. Hey, while we have me on, why don't we start our giveaway? So let's go ahead and bring over from our friends at Axon Robotics. Are going to be giving away a Axon Mini Servo to a random person in chat here. So couple things about this real quick. If you're not familiar, Axon Robotics is a student-run company, focuses on developing innovative products and solutions for FTC. The Mini features a titanium powertrain, aluminum case, and high-efficiency brushless motor. The Servo packs 7.5 watts of power on an affordable and compact package. So if you're interested in winning this, you do have to make sure you are following the Fun Twitch channel here in order to be eligible. And we do have a keyword for you, and that keyword is going to be circuit, CIRCUIT. Type circuit in chat right now. That's your opportunity to win. And we're also going to draw from Axon Robotics as well too. They are giving away one of the Axon Maxes as well to a random top 25 team. So we'll draw for that once we do the giveaway. The giveaway is going to happen after our number 1 seed. So make sure you type that in for your opportunity to win. We also have to give a big shout out, by the way, to our stream sponsor for today, and that's going to be Kettering University. Students, if you're looking for a great college to go to, where you can go where people who are actually from robotics in high school and are participating, 1 in 3 students that go to Kettering University were in high school robotics. It's a great opportunity for you to meet other students from all around the world that were in high school robotics. They have a combat robotics team. They have an amazing first center, literally a center dedicated to first, with tons of first teams, a full field, all that and more. Scholarships are available still. So if you're interested in doing that, they're giving away thousands, tens of thousands of dollars in scholarships. If you're interested, head on over to kettering.edu/first. And that's your opportunity to head in to find more out about Kettering and see if a scholarship is right for you. And thanks a lot to Kettering University for the support of fun.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler, for those messages. Caden, you want to start us off with our top 5?
Yep, coming in at 5th place, we have 11329 Ice Robotics. This team is ranked 4th in the world with an OPR of 171, and they won the Inspire Award 2nd place and were winning alliance captains at the Indiana South League tournament. We saw this team on top 25 last month, and I just want to say again that this is a very clean robot. It's always cool to see a team incorporate a certain aesthetic to the robot. This team's carbon fiber virtual floor bar allows their lightweight mechanism to swing quickly to the back of the robot to deposit cones, and ultimately lends to a really good teleop performance.
Yeah, no, I mean, the numbers ICE was putting up is just crazy. Really, really impressed by their performance. And I can't wait to see, what they have at, I guess, after Indiana South League tournament. I assume it's the Indiana State Championship. So hopefully they do really well there. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to their matches and overall performance. I think we can see them in this match. Looks like they're just trying to circuit right now. So yeah, now they come into view on the field, and that is a very, very fast virtual floor bar. And it's pretty impressive how they're not tipping, even though they're just swinging that thing around so quickly. So really, really great team. Glad they made our top 5.
Yeah, they have an insane OPR because I think it's the 2nd highest so far in our top 25. And just like overall the robot, it like really matches the theme, and I like to see like those robots do that. Sure.
Yeah, I think I'm actually kind of interested in this. Maybe we can put a poll in the chat, Tyler. Do you guys prefer robots that are like all white or all black, or maybe like white with a color scheme? What are you guys' preferences?
So what are the options?
Or okay. I'd say the options are all white, all black, or white with a color scheme, because I feel like we don't really see black like with an accent color too much. It's usually just like all black.
All right.
But
All right, we'll put that in chat for everybody.
Yeah, we'll see what the audience thinks. But in the meantime, let's go on to our 4th team. So in the 4th place is another team from Washington, although not our last for the night. And this spot goes to team 14179, the Sushi Squad from Redmond, Washington. They had their final competition of the season at the New Mexico State Championship and ended their season with the 4th highest OPR in the world at 161.6 points. What's crazy to me is that their average score is 251 points per match. That's the non-penalty score. And this is 30 points above the 2nd place highest average non-penalty score. So it's just insane how they're scoring basically a circuit and a beacon more than the next place team on average. And, a 223 points definitely is a very impressive feat in and of itself. But that's just insane to me. And it's really unfortunate that they didn't qualify for the World Championship. I'm sure everybody would have loved to see them there, and also a little bit scared of them. And to me, the most unique part of the robot has to be their arm. Even though it's so long, we just saw Ice compete with a really long arm. They're able to control it so effortlessly. Like Sushi is just able to put cycle after cycle on any junction that they want. And having seen this counter springing in person, it really is something special. So I don't think we've seen many robots with this design, like with a turret arm, with the arm like so long but implemented so well. Do you think this is something we'll see more of at Houston? I mean, the design validation is definitely there. So, Kaden and Sahil, what do you think?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of teams with turret and then horizontal slides out, like Brainstormers, and yeah, other teams. But having that horizontal extension not having that virtual floor bar arm is definitely interesting the way they control it. It really reminds me of FRC Team 254 Cheesy Poofs from 2019 and
Yeah,
how they
definitely.
control their arm up and down. Um, yeah,
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 definitely.
I think
You
the
go ahead.
reason it's very reminiscent of that is because they never just like rotate the arm itself. It's always rotating the arm like with moving the lift up and down so that they keep their vertical position, but can change their X if needed. So very, very cool. And before we start our top three, looks like our poll results are in. Tyler is saying that all black won for the voting. So teams, if you're thinking about a color scheme change or new robot colors for your future competitions, keep in mind the community does like the all black theme. Yeah, Sahil, you want to kick off our top three?
Yeah. In the third spot, I believe is a rookie team from Washington, and they were in the finals alliance, ranked highest in the league with a high score of 264 points. Overall, this team has an amazing design with the intake moving the front portion of the robot and a separate linear slide for the back half of the robot. They'll be progressing to Worlds by second place Inspire, and I can't wait to see what they do at Worlds because it's really a nice robot.
So Washington actually only has 2 slots, so they won't be qualifying out of Washington, but they do have a couple more tournaments left. They
Okay.
have Colorado State's this weekend, and then Alabama State's in the future. So I'm sure people would like to see them compete at the World Championship. They haven't quite made it there yet, but
Okay.
definitely a possibility. This robot, just incredible. Another team we did a fantastic behind the bot with. Really a lot to learn. One thing that I'm interested in is how they adapt their deposit. Since a bunch of forum rulings have come out in the past couple weeks, we've seen some new requirements for those passive deposits. I think the most significant one is that any arc on the back has to be has to have a radius greater than the cone, so greater than 2 inches. So quality control in this video doesn't have that, but I'm sure they're aware of the rule. They'll be working on it, and they'll have something else for Colorado State's. Can't wait to see what it is. Yeah.
All right, coming in at second place, we have 12599 Overcharge from Portland, Oregon. With an OPR of 187, this team is currently ranked first in the world and holds the current world record of 284 points. They won the Inspire Award second place and were winning alliance captains at the Oregon Willamette Valley Tournament. Of the teams that are doing a turret slice design this season, Overcharge has been one of the most consistent out of them all. They have a flawless auto, which is in part due to the junction alignment tool that they use. And during the teleop period, they dominate the field for junction ownership, as having a turret allows them to score on junctions without turning their robot.
Yeah, I was looking back at like the current world record of 284 points, and their end game score I think was like around 82 points or something like that. They owned 14 junctions on the field. And so just a little bit of number crunching for everybody. So there's 25 junctions on the field. 9 of those are ground junctions. So that leaves like 16 low, medium, and high junctions for you to claim. And Overcharged and their alliance partner had 14 out of those 16 in their world record match, which is just like insane. Definitely
Yeah.
a testament to their driver strategy, overall robot, hardware, software, just everything. So really, really cool. But Oregon, another one of those super tough states. We have Overcharged, Revamped, Tobertech, and a bunch of other Oregon teams that are also very strong each year. So coming out of that state will be tough. I think Oregon is confirmed to have 3 slots though. So that means Inspire 1 and 2 are guaranteed. Winning Alliance captain is guaranteed. But if there's any double up, then Winning Alliance number 1 also gets to go on, which becomes very interesting. Because then there's like the whole discussion of, do you accept the captain's pick, or do you decline and try and take home Winning Alliance captain on your own? So
Yeah.
Okay. Starting off or ending off our night, taking the crown for our February FTC Top 25 is once again Team 8644, the Brainstormers from Lexington, Massachusetts. this past weekend they competed at the Chesapeake Championship, and despite ending quals in second place, they were able to come back from some tough elimination matches and take home the winning alliance captain title, not only for their division but the overall championship as well. Those finals matches, grand finals at Chesapeake Champs, were some of the craziest matches I've seen. And we've already talked about their hardware and software capabilities on in the past. But I think one of the new things on their robot that I do want to mention are their like wall aligners and cone uprighters. They have those two sticks that come down in front of the robot that have at least two functions that I can see. One is to make sure they're spaced correctly from the wall. If they're just driving up to the cone, we can actually see right now in this cycle how they use it. And then the other functionality of them is to tip or to write tipped over cones. And so definitely something interesting. I'm wondering if we'll see other teams implement that or if we'll see like a different strategy become more popular. And another thing that I think is really important to discuss with brainstormers is that in the past, like in their Massachusetts qualifiers and even their Chesapeake qualifier, we saw a lot of just like sit and stack strategy for them. They'd sit off to the side and cycle just 10, 15 cones onto that high junction. I was kind of worried that they'd continue that strategy into eliminations at Chesapeake, but it looks like they shied away from it and tended towards more of a circuiting strategy, which was definitely evident through just their match scores. They had a circuit in pretty much almost all of their elimination matches, in at least on their division side. And so very, very interesting seeing that. I think it's definitely a testament to a team as great as this who's able to have so developed driving strategies and game strategies. You guys have any thoughts on the team?
Yeah, I think those cone upriders that they use are something. I mean, it kind of reminds me of those ring stoppers from Ultimate
Yeah,
Goal.
definitely.
And I think it's a very simple solution to upright the cones, and I think a lot of teams are going to implement it on their robot, like specific the exact same way that
Mhm.
Brainstormers uses it. And we've seen it with Cruise Control and Wolfpack uprighting the cones, and I think yeah, you're definitely going to see more of the top teams uprighting cones to get every last cone scored in that match.
Yeah. Sahil, anything to add?
Yeah, in general, just like brainstormers, it's always cool to see how they find another way to use the turret in their game. And the overall, even no matter how heavy and robust the robot is, I never see any tip from them, and their movement around the field is just like always on top.
Yeah, Tyler, what about you? And what do you think about this team?
Well, I actually have a question for you all. Is, in your opinion, is Brainstormers the best team? Is there any other team out there that, as of right now, is better than Brainstormers? We know the community voted for them number one, but what is your guys' opinion?
Yeah, I think personally, having seen them play, that pass-through turret design is the number one design right now for qualifications. It just has so much versatility. That being said, I think it is incredibly, incredibly difficult to pull off. Up until a couple days ago, they were the only robot I had seen that had that design. And then now I've seen just one other, I think, that has a similar pass-through turret design, but yet a still different implementation. But no, I got to say Brainstormers is the number one team for me.
Yeah, I
Caden,
think for
Sahil?
sure, like overall, between having a good robot a robot that's really really good in auto and really really good in teleop, the turret slides is definitely like the way to go.
Yeah. And they won't be competing at the Massachusetts State Championship. I think we saw last season after they advanced from Arkansas. I think they didn't compete at the Massachusetts State Championship, so it'll be interesting. They have 2 months or so to figure everything out. They had very very few issues at Chesapeake, but anything that they do want to iron out, I'm sure they'll have the time to. And it'll be it'll be really special to see what they bring to Houston again. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think in general, just like overall, all these teams just like have a really outstanding factor from them. Just like they all have a unique way of going about the game. As you said before, it's like that's how it spices it up and gives other teams the ability to learn. So it's good to see how every team changes it up a bit.
Yeah. And before we end off, I think my hot take for the night will be that I don't think Brainstormers will be number one in March top 25. I think since they won't get to compete again, there are some really powerhouse teams that are competing in the next month, especially before our March top 25. There's going to be some crazy state championships. So I'm going to say it now. My prediction is that they're not number one. I'm sure they'll be very, very high up there. But I think another team will be crowned champion.
All right, somebody clip that so you can play it back for us later. So, perfect.
Maybe it's technical difficulties with their 2 arms.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows?
Could be.
All right, let's go ahead and draw for our giveaway winners, by the way. So we have the Axon Mini that we're going to roll for, and the winner of that is going to be the Outcast Virus. The Outcast Virus. Congratulations for the Axon Mini. Please make sure you send First Updates Now a message, preferably on Discord with all your shipping information so we can get that out. And also, let's roll for one of our top 25 teams, and that is going to be 16458 Techno Wizards are going to win a Axon Max from Axon Robotics. So thanks a lot to Axon Robotics for the awesome giveaways that we have on there. We may have some more giveaways from other suppliers coming up in the next couple of months too. So keep an eye out for that, especially if you're watching live as well. Very exciting for that. And congrats to all the top 25 teams.
Yeah. And, right before we wrap up our show, we had a very special shout out request from Will MG. They asked, can you shout out Bacon and say that Stephen is the buffest person alive? So I guess I'm saying it now. But yeah, that's going to wrap up our February FTC Top 25. What teams do you think deserve to be in the top 25 that weren't? Let us know in the fun Discord or comment on the YouTube video. And don't forget to vote each month for FTC Top 25. Before we end the night, well, we've already done our giveaways, but Caden, can you do our outro, please?
Thank you for all the follows and subscriptions we received today. Don't forget that you can subscribe for free through Twitch Gaming. We hope you enjoyed this episode of FTC Top 25. If you want to stay connected with what First Updates Now FTC is doing, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at FunFTC and join our Discord through the link in the chat.
Yeah, and on behalf of myself, Caden, Sahil, and our producer Tyler working behind the scenes, I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. Keep an eye out for future new FTC content coming on YouTube and for when FTC Top 25 polls open next month. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
This video on First Updates Now is made possible by viewers like you and also the following sponsors. At Kettering University, over 30% of the student population was in high school robotics. These same students have received a portion of over $7 million in scholarships. Scholarship applications for first students are now available. Get more information at kettering.edu/first. Check out our all-new FTC content coming to Fun's YouTube in February, including new hosts from the FTC community. We'll have resource guides, top 10 moments, behind the bots interviews, and walkthroughs to help your FTC team improve at youtube.com/firstupdatesnow. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay up to date on our new videos. Keep the conversation going and provide your input to our content. Watch our live shows at twitch.tv/firstupdatesnow. Join our Discord at discord.gg/firstupdatesnow. And check out Fun FTC on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and First Updates Now on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter.